Daniel Hart never imagined his night would spiral like this. Driving through the freezing Vermont rain, his hands clenched around the steering wheel, he kept replaying the fight with his wife, Emily. Like a broken record, he couldn't stop. The argument had started so small, yet somehow it had escalated into something sharp, heavy, and painful. He couldn't even recall what triggered it exactly, only that he had stormed out, promising himself he would cool off before returning home. But the storm outside was worse than he expected. The icy roads, thick fog, and a heater that barely worked forced him to pull over repeatedly, just to steady his breathing. Eventually, he realized he couldn't make it home safely. The closest refuge was his mother-in-law Margaret's small wooden cabin. Margaret had always had a calm, understanding presence, even when he didn't deserve it. So he drove there, a mix of shame and desperation weighing on him. When he arrived, rain soaking his coat, he hesitated on the porch like a guilty man showing up uninvited. The door opened, and Margaret appeared, her short silver hair tucked neatly behind her ears. Her eyes widened in concern at the sight of him, pale and drenched. Without a word, she guided him inside, simply saying, "You're freezing." The warmth of the cabin hit him like a wave. Daniel tried not to show how exhausted he was as he explained, haltingly, that he and Emily had fought, that the storm trapped him on the road, that he just needed a safe place for the night. Margaret listened quietly, her expression soft with empathy, not pity, which he would have resented, but genuine care. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and said, "You did the right thing coming here. Tonight, you rest." Daniel nodded, grateful. The fire crackled, the scent of lavender from her pillows filling the room. And for a moment, he felt a rare calm. But that peace was short-lived. When Margaret went to prepare the guest room, she returned wearing an apologetic frown. The room was under renovation, and the couch he usually slept on had broken beyond repair. In the tiny cabin, there were no other options. Before he could protest sleeping on the floor, Margaret shook her head firmly. "You're not leaving in this storm. You're not sleeping on the floor. There's a bed large enough in my room. Enough space for both of us without anything inappropriate." Daniel froze. Not because it was scandalous, but because the night already felt overwhelming. And this unexpected arrangement pushed him further outside his comfort zone. Margaret seemed almost amused by his panic. "There's nothing unusual here. You're practically family. You're like a son to me. And I'm not letting you sleep cold." The storm raged outside, and Daniel knew she was right. With a resigned sigh, he followed her to the room. The wooden floors creaked beneath their steps, the small lamp casting a warm glow over the cozy space filled with the gentle scent of lavender. Margaret placed extra pillows between them, giving him space and comfort. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Daniel felt awkward, tense, still thinking of Emily, wishing the night had gone differently. Margaret noticed his unease and said softly, "You look like you're carrying too much for one person." Daniel almost broke. He exhaled a shaky breath and admitted the truth. He and Emily had been drifting apart for months, and tonight's fight had pushed him closer to despair than he wanted to admit. Margaret listened quietly, placing a warm hand on his arm. Not in a romantic way, but in the way a caring mother does. "You're not losing each other," she said. "You're just losing your way." Her words hit harder than comfort could. Daniel felt the room shrink around him, the storm outside quieter, as if the world itself was listening. He confessed his fears, Emily pulling away emotionally, The anxiety that he wasn't enough. The terror that every disagreement was a sign of something breaking. Margaret nodded, telling him gently that love could become quiet. Not because it was fading, but because life gets loud. If two people forget to pause and truly see each other, even the strongest bonds feel fragile. Daniel felt a strange comfort. Lying next to someone who didn't judge, didn't blame, didn't tell him he had failed. Margaret reminded him that relationships were built on courage, not perfection. As he relaxed into the mattress, the firelight flickering through the door, Margaret encouraged him to speak more if he needed. He admitted that Emily sometimes withdrew, that he felt inadequate, that he left the house not out of anger, but out of fear of causing more pain. Margaret's calm wisdom stunned him. Being scared doesn't mean you're wrong for each other. It means you care enough to be hurt. Then she revealed that Emily had confided in her, expressing her own struggles and fears. Things Daniel hadn't known. Emily wasn't pulling away from love. She was scared of failing him, overwhelmed by expectations. Daniel realized that both of them had been silently carrying fear and guilt. Before he could process this fully, Margaret added, "There's something else you need to know. Something Emily asked me not to tell you until the right time." His heart skipped. Before he could ask what she meant, a soft, hesitant knock echoed through the cabin. "Emily." Margaret wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and whispered, "I think that's her." Daniel's heart pounded as they opened the door. Rain poured down Emily's hair. Her hands trembled, and her eyes were red from crying. Seeing her there, vulnerable and exhausted, the fight from earlier seemed meaningless. "I didn't want us to end the night in anger," she whispered. "The storm. I just needed to see you." Daniel stepped closer, taking her hands in his. He admitted his own fears, the belief that she was slipping away. Emily confessed that she hadn't stopped loving him. She had simply been overwhelmed, hiding her stress, because she feared he would see her as weak. He reassured her he never wanted her to carry anything alone. They would face it together. Margaret returned with tea, smiling softly, observing the quiet reunion. Emily revealed she had been attending therapy secretly, trying to cope alone. Daniel felt pride, not anger, for her effort. Margaret confirmed that Emily had been seeking advice on reconnecting, proof that her love had never faltered. The storm softened outside, the fire crackling gently. Daniel felt a deep certainty. Their marriage wasn't broken. It was waiting to be rebuilt with honesty. Emily rested her head on his shoulder, whispering her relief at being together again. Daniel wrapped an arm around her, promising they would always find their way back. Margaret excused herself, leaving them to talk by the fire. They laughed softly, shared fears, dreams, and burdens. And slowly, the storm faded completely. By dawn, Daniel awoke on the living room sofa, listening to Emily sleeping nearby, warm and peaceful. And in that quiet, he realized that honesty, courage, and the willingness to face fears together were the foundation their love had been waiting for all along.